Let's have a drink to celebrate. Let's have a drink to commiserate. I want to drink because I'm stressed, happy, sad, pissed off, or waiting at the airport at 9 AM about to jet off on holiday. Let's be honest, we Brits can find an excuse to have a drink at any given time of day, and I know for a fact it's not just the Brits who are partial to a sip of the old devil's poison. I've travelled all over the world, and other nations can even put us to shame when it comes to alcohol consumption. Groups of friends sipping wine at 10 AM in San Sebastian, ladies who lunch enjoying mimosas in Marbella with their brunch, through to businessmen in the city celebrating closing a deal with a glass of champagne. Alcohol is truly ingrained and accepted throughout the world, but at what cost?
Breathe in, breathe out. Hey, come alive. Breathe in.
How much does alcohol actually cost you? Mentally, physically, and financially? I'd like to share my journey with you. As many of you will know, I made the bold statement at the end of last year that I'm going to give up alcohol for the entire year of 2025. The video was made with passion, a desire to lead from the front and spearhead a journey to sobriety for not only myself but also for other people who are sober curious and want to explore a sober lifestyle. So how has that gone? Well, it's halfway through the year, and if you follow my Instagram account, you know things took a turn. Some would say a turn for the worst. Let me fill you in. January, February and March were spent in the UK at my home in London, where I attended to some business matters and tied up loose ends. Staying sober and on the wagon was surprisingly easy. There was zero temptation to go to the pub or consume alcohol. Most of my friends have left the UK and now live abroad, so I no longer have the social life in the UK that I once did. It was also cold, grey and depressing during the winter months, so I went into hibernation, training every day, eating clean and finally getting round to finishing my book. During this time I lost weight, slept like a baby and become laser focused, attending to business projects with the clarity and attention to detail I hadn't experienced for a long time. Life was good. In fact, life was really good. I also felt that my mental health had improved. Not that I was depressed or sad before. I'd even go as far as to say that my mental health hadn't really crossed my mind before deciding to abstain from alcohol. But during those first 3 months of sobriety, I gained a mental clarity and a zest for life I'd not experienced for quite some time. Absolutely every aspect of my life has improved. Improved gym workouts, better sleep, more energy, happier with less overthinking, not forgetting all of the money I'd saved from not boozing. This was even more apparent when I dined at one of my favourite restaurants and the bill came to £120 instead of £250 because I hadn't had wine with the meal. Now, I want to make a point here, as I feel it might have got lost in transit in my other video where I declared that I was giving up alcohol for 2025. Whilst I've abused alcohol in the past, been guilty of partying too hard at times and certainly binged in my younger years, at that particular point in my life that I decided to abstain, I was what could be called a social drinker, albeit on a regular basis. There was no blackout drunkenness, waking up and reaching for the bottle or drinking every day. Just a casual drinker who loves a beer with the lads and a bottle of wine or two when out for dinner with friends. No drama, no biggie, no problem. Or was it? Well, that's when many people start to experience what I call alcohol delusion. Basically, the denial that alcohol is a problem. It's when the little voices in your head tell you, or should I say try to convince you, that everything is okay and alcohol is not causing you problems in life. For some people, having a glass of wine with dinner isn't an issue. The occasional session with the lads is perfectly acceptable. And for some people, getting home from work and having a little tipple or the old devil's poison is your God-given right. After all, you've worked your bollocks off earning a crust in order to provide for your family. Surely you're entitled to relax and unwind of an evening. I get it, I really do. It's the one thing you look forward to after a hard day at work, and let's face it, life for many is bloody hard right now.
So what's the problem, you might be thinking? Well, it's not a problem. At least it's not a problem for me. But the question I want to pose, is alcohol a problem for you?
In mid-March, after spending a grueling winter in the UK, I decided to pack up once again and return to my home in Bangkok, sober, fit and refreshed. Now, I'd been in Bangkok for a few days, following the same routine I'd been adhering to whilst in the UK. Then, out of nowhere, Bangkok felt the aftermath of a 7.4 magnitude earthquake, originating in Myanmar, but was felt throughout Bangkok city. So where am I going with this? Well, at precisely 7:15 PM that evening, I found myself unconsciously standing at the bar of a local pub ordering a beer. Yeah, just like that. No debating, no second guessing myself, and certainly no thought of, I'm supposed to be on the wagon. And that's how it happened. That's how I fell off the wagon. The end. Well, not quite. And this leads me to the key takeaway I want to share with you. The bar was outside, it was warm, and people flocked everywhere. The first beer went down without as much of a thought to my sobriety as did the second. By the time the third beer arrived, the old brain chemicals started to be influenced by the alcohol, and then suddenly it became apparent. Shit, I'd had a beer. I'd officially fallen off the wagon. Barman, another beer if you please. Did I feel bad? Hell no. I just experienced an earthquake and I was still alive. That was my excuse and I'm sticking with it. Besides, sobriety was self-imposed. My choice, my decision. I've got nothing to feel bad about. I'd reasoned with myself that this was a one-off and I'd be straight back on the wagon the following day.
You see, alcohol is never the problem until it becomes the problem. Then you have to have that conversation with yourself. Alcohol can in fact be a great problem solver until your main problem is alcohol itself.
Now this is where the penny drops. The following day, I was back on the wagon and resumed back to normal activities. I hit the gym, finished what I needed to do at work, and enjoyed a meal out in the evening whilst remaining completely alcohol-free. However, the following day, I spoke to a few friends and arranged to meet them out that night. Now, upon reflection, this is where things took a turn. Alcohol justification reared its ugly head. Now, as many of you drinkers will know, this is where the problems can often start. The long, laborious internal conversations you have with yourself justifying why you're going to have a drink. My justification was that I wasn't a problematic drinker, no blackouts, no arguments, fights or collapse of relationships or business interests. Basically for me, there was no significant or standout incident that rocked me enough to shock me into sobriety. And that's where many people, myself included, tend to dance around the matter of whether or not alcohol is a problem. Already the alcohol had worked its way into my psyche and I was filling my head with thoughts and justifications of why I was perfectly fine having just a few beers with the lads. I was, after all, back in Bangkok. A few beers won't hurt. The famous last words. Well, as many of you watching this will know, the writing was on the wall. I went from 3 months sober to having a couple of beers to calm my nerves after experiencing an earthquake, through to having a few with the lads a few days later. I'd gone from being sober to now being a social drinker and on special occasions. But then after a week or two, I decided to be a once a week drinker, say on a Saturday night. Yet as the weeks passed, it then became a glass of wine when I was out for dinner on a weekday night. And as many of you will know, that's where most people struggle when it comes to keeping a lid on it. All of a sudden, I wasn't sober and on the wagon. I was a drinker once again, albeit more consciously than before. Or was I? Is it really a problem? I wasn't getting drunk, it wasn't every night, and I wasn't drinking at home. Absolutely not. I still worked out, still carried on running my business, but in the month or two of becoming once again a social drinker, I'd noticed some profound things started to happen. My workouts were less intense than I'd experienced when sober. My sleep quality had become massively affected. Less healthy food decisions slowly crept into my diet. I became lazier and lacked the drive and passion I'd had when sober. I'd also started to retain water and experienced inflammation, making me appear bloated, especially in my face. I'd become less happy and started to feel my mental health being affected negatively. And I can say without a question that the quality of my life had become less than it had been when sober. Absolutely everything that was important in my life had been negatively affected. And worst of all, as far as I was concerned, I'd let myself down. But here's the thing, and this is what I want to highlight to any of you guys that are struggling with sobriety, is that on the surface, I was successful by societal standards. I was running a profitable business, I was still in decent shape, I was still getting shit done, and in society's eyes, I was successful. But I wasn't the person I knew I could be, and I knew I wasn't fulfilling my full potential. If I was to rate myself over the 3 months while sober and on the wagon, I'd give myself a solid 9 out of 10. However, if I were to rate myself out of 10 over the 3 months since I'd become a social drinker again, I'd give myself a 6, and if I'm being completely honest, I'd say 6 was quite generous. And that's where I have a problem with alcohol, because I'm not willing to live my life being less than what I can be. I'm not willing to come second to anybody in life, not in business, not in the gym, and not in any endeavour that I participate in. I'm certainly not coming second to alcohol. And all the while I'm participating in this game of life that I've worked so hard to create, it's up to me and only me to get back on track, get back on the wagon, and be the best version of myself. In my 46 years on this planet, I've realised that the burden of shouldn't I consume alcohol is just too big a weight to carry around on my shoulders. Life becomes easier, less stressful, and more fulfilling when sober. Am I disappointed for myself for falling off the wagon? I'd be lying if I said no. However, I'd be even more disappointed if I had to make this video in a year or two from now. So here's my take on things as a social drinker. Drinking, boozing, whatever you want to call it, isn't a problem until it's a problem. And it's different for everyone. If you can enjoy a glass of wine with dinner and it aligns with your values, that's great. If you can enjoy a session with the lads on a special occasion and it aligns with your values, feel free to do so. Even if you can justify drinking on the regular and it doesn't impact you negatively, who am I to condemn you? The real issue with alcohol is when you know deep down it doesn't align with who you are as a person, or that drinking is stopping you from being the best version of yourself.
Is alcohol negatively affecting your life and stopping you from achieving your goals? Is it stopping you from achieving the physique that you've always wanted? Is it stopping you from achieving the relationships you want with other people, but also with yourself? And is alcohol affecting your business goals? Is it stopping you from creating the financial freedom to allow you to travel the world, move location, or move jobs and change up your career? Only you know the answer to that question, but I urge you to have a long, hard conversation with yourself, because only you can change the outcome of your future.